Welcome back, friend. Welcome back to Awali connection. So in this video, we're going to talk about router and some concept that's coming with router. Router is coming with this concept. The first one is NAT. What is a NAT? We're going to explain that. After that, we're going to talk about DMZ. What is DMZ? And also, we're going to talk about what is a port forwarding. So this is the most important part of router that we're going to explain in this video. Also, we're going to explain what is a firewall. So, for example, in our lane, we already explained what is a lane. For example, these devices in our lane would like to talk to another device or would like to send data and request data outside of a lane. So how is it working? The first concept is coming. What is a NAT? So NAT, the name is called Network Address Translation. So NAT is going to allow us to translate our IP address to another IP address that is going to work or maybe communicate with another traffic or another device outside of our lane. So that's the biggest concept of NAT. After that, we can say this device outside of our lane would like to talk to another device in our lane. So this cannot work. This communication cannot work. Why? Because it's a security risk. This cannot work. That's why the concept of firewall is coming. So what is a firewall? Firewall is just a setup of rules that allow us to control the traffic coming outside of our lane. So for example, this device would like to talk to another device in our lane. That cannot happen. Why? Because we set up some rules here. So the first way that we can allow communication from outside of our lane, we're going to do what we call DMZ. So DMZ, it is just a demilitarized zone. So DMZ is going to be set up someplace here. What is the concept of DMZ? I'm going to explain that by giving an example from a school. For example, a guest or maybe a parent would like to talk to his student on the school. So DMZ is like a reception. DMZ is like reception. It allows communication but with some setup of rules. That's the biggest example that we can give to a DMZ. After that, we do have port forwarding. What is a port forwarding? Port forwarding is the concept that allows communication, but we need to specify which port is going to allow this communication. For example, we use port 80. So what is a port? Port is just a device that is our lane would like to another device outside of our lane. For example, this device would like to talk to this device. So this communication is coming to a router. So the router is going to send this request to a DMZ. And then from the DMZ, the communication can be allowed. And this device can talk to another device in our lane because we already set up some concept or some rules. Or this device is already set up or maybe is already on DMZ. This device can also talk to a device outside of our lane. So the router is going to allow this communication if we already set up a DMZ. So this device is going to request from our router and the router is going to allow this communication through DMZ. We need to set up some devices is going to stay on our DMZ and from there, these devices can talk to another device outside of our lane. That's the biggest concept of DMZ. And we can simply correlate it, as I said, for like a reception on a school. Because if a guest or maybe a parent would like to talk, this parent or this guest is going to stay on a reception and wait for the student or to wait and allow this communication. And the student can see his parent and they can talk in a reception. That's the same concept of DMZ. DMZ is just a setup of zone that allow communication. So with the port forwarding, we're not going to set up a DMZ. We don't going to do that. So how is it going to work with port forwarding? With DMZ, we just going to allow communication between our device in our LAN to another device outside of our LAN. How? We're going to specify which port this device can talk to our device in our LAN. So by that, we can also specify this port can be port 80. From this port, we're going to allow communication between device from our LAN to another device outside of our LAN. That's the most concept of port forwarding. So what's a port? Port is just any machine in our network or maybe in a network that would like to talk to another machine in different network. That's the concept of port. And this machine is going to talk to another machine in different network by a specified port. So for example, on this network, we specify that the communication is going to be through the port 80. That's the most biggest concept of port forwarding. I think we also explain how this works. So for example, this device would like to talk to this device. So this device is going to be allowed this communication by specified port. On this device, we're going to set up a port that is going to allow this communication. For example, as we said, it can be port 80. So on this port, the communication can be allowed between these two devices. This one on our LAN and this one outside of our LAN. That's the most important part of how communication can be done or can be done by port forwarding. So now we did explain how router and some concept coming with router. We understand that the firewall is just some rules we set up that is going to allow communication, or maybe is going to enable communication between devices in our LAN to devices outside of our LAN. That's the biggest concept of firewall.